Chapter 13. I'm Not a Quitter. I remember when Babe came back from the doctor's office after they took the test, Bertha Bowen recalled. She was ghastly white. Her lips were just a thin line, as if she had no lips at all. She walked into her bedroom and threw her big brown bag on the chair in the corner and said, "BB, I've got it. The worst kind. In all honesty, I'm not worried about myself, but I'm worried about George." And she meant it, because she knew that he didn't have the stamina that she had to meet reverses like that. Babe had suspected for some time that she might have cancer, the disease that had taken her father's life. She had noticed symptoms that worried her, but she had confided in only one person, her friend Betty Dodd. "I'd never even hinted at such a thing to George," she wrote. "I continue to keep my cancer fears a secret from him." Now there was no secret. The diagnosis came as a shock to everyone. Babe had colon cancer. Her doctors had found a malignancy in her lower intestine. She would have to have a radical operation called a colostomy, a term that Babe had never heard before and that she could neither pronounce nor spell at the time. To remove the tumor, surgeons would have to cut off part of her lower intestine and reroute the short intestinal tract so that her solid waste could pass through an opening they would create on the left side of her stomach. The operation changes your anatomy so much you wonder whether you'll ever be able to live your normal life again, Babe wrote. That was all I could think about when I first got the bad news. George had broken down in the doctor's office. Weeping bitterly, he kept insisting that Babe did not have cancer. Betty was visiting her parents in San Antonio at the time. Babe phoned her and in a trembling voice asked her to come to Beaumont, where the operation would take place. "Betty," she said, "I've got cancer. I've got to be operated on. I've got to have a col. She couldn't say the word, Betty recalled. I said, "Colostomy?" And she said, "That's right." It took 10 days to build her up for the operation. I moved into the hospital room with her. Aside from her hernia operation the year before, Babe had never been seriously ill. Her superb physical condition had always been a source of pride and confidence, but now she felt her body had betrayed her. She had to face the possibility that her sports career was finished. Her doctor told reporters, "I don't know yet if surgery will cure her, but I will say that she never again will play golf of championship caliber." The operation on April 17, 1953, took more than 4 hours. Afterward, Dr. Robert Moore, the chief surgeon, called George and Betty into his office. The colostomy had gone well, he told them, but during surgery the doctors had discovered that Babe's cancer had spread into her lymph nodes, where it was inoperable. This meant that she could expect more trouble within a year or so. "She's got 3 strikes against her," Dr. Moore said. He felt that this discouraging news should be kept from Babe, a common practice among cancer patients in the 1950s. George and Betty followed his advice. Betty stayed in the hospital room with Babe during recovery, sleeping on a cot. She had put Babe's golf clubs in a corner of the room where Babe could see them when she woke up every morning. Thousands of get-well letters and telegrams poured into the hospital. They came from all over the world, from people she had never met. Some addressed simply to Babe, with not even a city or state on the envelope. Babe had asked that instead of flowers, well-wishers should send contributions to the Damon Runyon Cancer Fund. She regained her strength quickly. While she was still recuperating in bed, she began exercises designed to strengthen her leg and arm muscles. And as soon as she got out of bed, she began swinging her golf clubs. 10 days after surgery, she was wandering about the hospital, visiting the children's ward, playing her harmonica, and cheering up everyone she saw. And while sports writers had speculated that she would never play championship golf again, she was determined to prove them wrong. She viewed her cancer as a temporary setback, and her recovery as a contest she intended to win. "All my life, I've been competing and competing to win," she wrote in her autobiography. "I came to realize that in its way, this cancer was the toughest competition I had faced yet. I made up my mind that I was going to lick it all the way. I was determined to come back and win golf championships just the same as before." Babe left the hospital on May 18, a month after her operation. She traveled with Betty to her brother Louis' home in Newton, Texas, then visited Betty's parents in San Antonio, and finally returned to Tampa in June, ready to play golf again. "I am feeling wonderful, and the call is working okay," she wrote to Bertha Bowen. On July 31, just 14 weeks after her surgery, Babe entered the All-American tournament at the Tam O'Shanter Country Club outside Chicago. This was so remarkable, I still can't believe she did it, Betty recalled. We were down in Tampa, and Babe said to me, "Let's go play the Tam." She was determined. Worried that her artificial intestinal tract might misfunction, Babe asked to be paired with Betty throughout the tournament. She was familiar with my condition and could step in and help if I had any trouble, Babe wrote. So Betty played alongside her. George was there too, chomping on his cigar, carrying a stick for Babe to rest on between shots, and massaging her shoulders as she sat. A big crowd had shown up to watch Babe's return to tournament golf, and she was unusually tense. Afraid that she might injure herself, she played cautiously. I could still bang out some long ones, she wrote, but I didn't seem to have the control and the touch that you need, especially on the short game. During the third round of the tournament, neither of us was playing well, Betty recalled. Babe was missing shots and fighting like mad. Finally, Babe became so discouraged that she walked off the green and sat on a nearby bench. She sat down and put her head in her hands and sobbed and sobbed. It was the first and last time I ever saw Babe break down on the golf course. I told her, "Babe, quit. No one will care. They'll understand." She looked up at me with tears streaming down her face and said, No, I don't want to quit. I'm not a quitter." She pulled herself together, then she hit a fine drive. Babe finished the tournament in 15th place. 2 days later, she entered the World Golf Championship on the same course and took 3rd place. She went on to play the rest of the season, finished 6th among the year's money winners, and won the Ben Hogan Comeback of the Year award.